This computer. And it is, let's check with the official iPhone. Yes, it is August 24th. Summer winding down again here. So busy time in Newport. And thanks everybody for checking in for this edition of Around the Sailing World. And we've been missing Jonathan McKee, so we're going to check in with you first. You said you've got the vacation beard going, and what have you been up to?
Well, I just had the pleasure of spending 9 days with my family on our boat in the San Juan Islands. So we have a 44-foot racer cruiser, and just had a great time. We normally go to Canada, but obviously that's not possible this year. So we had to confine our travels a little bit, but it really didn't make any difference to how much fun we had. And we're lucky that some of our friends also have boats, so we met up with a couple of them. And it's just such a cool thing when you have two families cruising side by side, sharing their wine and stories. It's a special time of the summer.
Good cruising grounds up there.
Great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, so what's next for you in the racing world then, now that you've gone in slow motion and
my next for me is I'm working with some double-handed offshore sailors, and our next event is the Vineyard Race there in your neck of the woods, Dave, in Connecticut. So that's coming up next week. And then I'll be with Mr. Eisler in Holland, Michigan the week after that for the Great Lakes 52 Regatta.
52's at it again. Ed, how can you get up to this 52s? Or do you feel like can you fill in for anybody?
Well, I mean, you certainly could. I think what's happened is, teams put their teams together a long time ago, and the guys are sailing in the Great Lakes on programs that some of those dates conflicted with things that we were doing in Europe with the 52s there. So you have some different people who got set up with the teams. So it would be unfair to be, saying to those guys, well, hang on, we want to take somebody off of a Super Series boat and put them in place of you. And frankly, a lot of the Super Series people wouldn't be able to travel to come over, to get involved. So I think they've done the right thing. The teams are the teams. And, so those of us that committed to being in Europe all summer just have a little less to do this year.
A little booked out and no luck. That's a bummer. How about can you sneak on the water in St. Pete? Or
well, like I said last week, we're in the height of the exciting time of the year where every day there's a different lightning strike in the neighborhood. For a lot of you who are watching the tropics, there's two tropical storms motoring up through the Gulf right now, and we're feeling the outer edges of those things as they spin around and send lots of very warm, humid air with lots of activity in it our way. So really, there's not much scheduled around in the summertime, especially in August in St. Pete. So it's quieter. The fishing's getting better, so that's good. But the sailing stuff it'll start up again once we get into September, October.
Well, I did see listing somewhere that St. Pete Yacht Club is looking for a race director or a racing coach, I think. So maybe go dial those guys up and see.
Well, and that's the thing that does happen here is all the summer classes, and they have gone on at most of the clubs around the area have still held their summer programs. They've just put in good measures to be safe and healthy, and so we're still getting lots of new kids into the sport, by having those summer classes. So that's good.
Yeah. How cool would that be if he showed up for class and had you as your racing coach, huh?
Well, it's funny that you say that. 3 or 4 years ago, I went down to, summer. It was summertime, and I was working with my kids down at the sailing center for something. And I walked in, and there was a guy who was a former Russian 470 Olympian. And he was standing down here at the club, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because we saw each other in Europe just a few weeks earlier, and he said, "Oh, I'm visiting my family in Sarasota, and apparently your program here is really good for teaching young kids, so we brought our kid up here to do the summer sailing." And I said, well, do you know who the Green Fleet, this was Green Fleet, beginners. I said, do you know who the Green Fleet coach is? And he said, oh yeah, it's the woman over there. I really haven't met her. And I said, well, you're a 470 sailor. You should remember the first female gold medalist in the 470 class, Allison Jolly. And he went white. I mean, he just lost all the color in his face. He goes, what? And he, can you introduce me? And that's kind of the level. I think that's a level at an awful lot of places around the world where, people that have done amazing things in the sport love to come back and teach young sailors how to get involved at the early stages. A lot of times the young sailors don't have any idea who they're listening to, but as time goes on, they appreciate that.
As did Russell Coutts for a little bit, right after sort of cup run ended. Didn't last long there, I don't think. Well, cool. Thanks. Well, hopefully things get better down there. And but yeah, cooking up here. So, and I know Tony Rey, who hasn't been with us for a couple of weeks, as he's been too busy. But we've seen quite a few TF10s zipping around, and Marsham 32 has been busy. And I think you're part of that. What have you been up to, Tony?
Yeah, it's been good. I haven't been on the call because I've been busy on the water, which has been great. It's been really good. So I'll do a screen share. Hopefully I won't screw this up too bad, but you let me know. You let me know how we do. Is that working?
Yeah, I can see.
Fantastic. So I was coaching this weekend, all last week, a team called Surge, which is a new Marsham 32 team. We had 8 boats out racing in Newport this weekend, and the circuit's fantastic. And I know you've seen it here on the call before, and the boats have been around for a few years now. It's really a wonderful setup they've got out of sort of this dusty old parking lot, old fishing pier behind the Midtown Oyster Bar in downtown Newport. It's super organic. We just got a bunch of basically just cold beer and pizza and, music on the Bluetooth speakers, and everyone kind of having fun, trying to stay a bit distant and do it safely. But it's been fantastic just socially, and great sailing. So I'll just roll this through. This is a pre-start we did using this Nord Player software, debrief software. I'm on the coach boat doing a sort of semi-adequate job holding the camera steady. But what's amazing about these boats is that they start off and sort of juggling around at about 4 or 5 knots, 6 knots, 7 knots, 5 knots. And then when they go, they go. And then suddenly we're at full throttle on the coach boat, just trying to keep up. So I'll play this through.
Wind Cunningham or no? No
And as these guys are training, Tony, is there sort of comms between the boats, or is this sort of just two boats?
Yeah, are you able to hear the audio there, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, super. There we go. We'll just play it out.
3, 2, 1.
Numero uno, nice punch.
So I'm coaching the team with the light blue gear on.
The Yacht One is at the Kirby clan, correct?
It is, yeah. That's exactly right.
Did anything good to their capsizer? They had a good one.
They flipped over on Friday, got her up, and then I think they sailed the last race, which is incredible about these boats. And what's amazing is they're averaging that sort of 16, 18, 20 knots on the reach, and then Jennekers go up, and it's another couple knots of boat speed after that. Amazing.
So as a coach, when you're trying to follow them at this rate of speed, I mean, what can you be looking at?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. What am I looking at? Basically, what I'm trying to do is, here, we'll just pause that. We'll pause that for now. So what I'm doing as a coach is just getting a sense of what's working on the starting line, because depending on the line bias, there was a bit of ebb current, which affected things. It got everybody up towards the weather end of the line. So you basically have to decide where you can pull the trigger on the line at what time, and go from 6 knots to 16 knots to 20 knots over about a 5 to 7 second period. So it's super critical to get a good start, as you can imagine. And there's not a lot of passing lanes after that in the first sort of run and the first jibe. there's a couple of passes here and there, but it's not like we're used to in sort of traditional racing. So it's been fascinating to try to help the guys from off the boat, because I'm just holding on for dear life, trying not to get thrown off the coach boat. It's pretty remarkable activity for all of us. But what we do as a coach is sort of break down on the race. You've also got GoPro footage on board, and that microphone is one that the tactician Lucas Calabresi is wearing around his neck. And I just started in the morning. I take it back from the end of the day, and to have that and a video the next morning to actually go over, here's what was said. And then some of the guys can say, yeah, I heard it. And two of them said, we didn't hear it at all. So how do we communicate better? How do we pass information on? How far to the next jibe? When these guys are holding on, covered in spray, going 22 knots downwind, ley lines come up quick, crossing situations come up quick. It's fascinating. So it's really pretty cool to break down the race into some specific tactical moments and basically just boat speed capturing moments. It's a handful. That's a lot of fun.
Does anybody have an opinion on these reaching starts that they've been playing with for a while that seem kind of, I don't know. Is it time for them to go away?
It's not very traditional, but the guys that are driving these boats are like, they've never had more fun on a sailboat than to start, because you're just waiting, go. And it's just different, and that variety, all the sailors that come off the boat are like, okay, that was one of the greatest days of sailing we've done for a while. And a bunch of us were doing the Marstrom this last week, and then we're starting an Etchells training camp, this coming week. There's a boat design in the early 1960s that, the maximum speed on an Etchells is basically the bottom speed on a Marstrom at 10 seconds before the start. You sail upwind at probably, I think, 30 degrees true wind angle, and downwind at 165. So it's just a totally different beast, but it's that variety that we're just so fortunate to be able to experience. I've actually got kind of a neat situation coming up. I'm racing with a guy from Annapolis, Jose Fuentes, on his Etchells, and we're doing a regatta on the weekend with, looks like about 9 or 10 boats, and training all this week. But our crew is, we sail with 4. Wilson Stout's on board doing the bow, and then Ed Baird's son, Nick, is sailing with us in the middle. And man, this kid is a shooting star. And I'm not just saying that because Ed's on the call. It's pretty impressive where he is as a sailor at his young age, his ability to adapt to a keel boat, because he's a dinghy sailor. Phenomenally talented college sailor and team racer and match racer, and but pretty new to the sort of trim. We've got him trimming the spinnaker, trimming an S sail, and but eyes wide open, and his ability to give me input tactically and sort of strategically on the race course, and he's a lot more mature than his age. So well done, Ed. He's fantastic.
Not my fault. You need to talk to Lisa. She's in the other room.
Well, we'll see. But it's really a pleasure to be able to see that next generation, like their skill level and their ability to work in a team. And that strategy role is an interesting one, because he's basically there to give input, but it's like a sort of like the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm, right? You want to give the input, but if you give it at the wrong time and you inject too much opinion, it can actually make everything worse. And he's got a really good skill for giving the sort of, hey, I think the left's good, or I'm not so sure the early jibe's working anymore. Quick discussion, and he's back to hiking like a maniac. And the kid's built like he's like brains on a stick, as Geordie Shaver used to say. So he's tall, skinny, can hike for days. So as far as I'm concerned, we're keeping him. Good.
That's cool. I want to go back real quick on those reaching starts. I remember it may have been Taylor at one point that said it's pretty hard to kind of, once you come out of the chaos, it's a bit of a parade from there. Is there a way to turn that around in some way? So, if you do wing it on that first leg, you still got a chance to get back into it.
Yeah, it's interesting that with the reaching start, one of the things that we found is that you'd think, well, you're just going to start and point at the mark, and that's it. Whoever is closest without being over is going to be the first boat. It's actually whoever is able to have their bow down enough to get to that maximum boat speed. And you can't do it if you're in bad air, but anybody in the front row can get there first if they have the space on the boat to leeward to actually put the bow down, because the speed differences are quite dramatic. So we found, even being the leeward starter, which worked in the ebb tide, taking you up to windward in the southerly and Newport, that the guys that could sail about 15 degrees below the reach mark, not actually laying it and come up right at the end, because that's the fastest VMC, right? Velocity made good to the mark, and come up at the end. And then, okay, it turns into a bit of a parade when you exit, but then there's a decision of if you jibe set effectively or not. And that's a tough one, because guys are exiting the mark going 22 knots, and you choose to jibe, you're going to spend 6 seconds going 8 knots. So the losses are dramatic. Then you got the whole another 3.5, 4 minute leg where you're now in clear air, clear water, and you're coming at starboard at the bottom. So we found that the boats that could jibe well, like Taylor, amazingly, who was on the Team Convexity from Chicago, who just dominated the weekend, and they were impressive. Their ability to boat handle, which isn't tactical decision, it's not a better boat or different sails, it's this 5 guys who are so good at the downspeed maneuvers, the tacks, the jibes, the pre-starts, that they were able to jibe at the mark, come back and do the extra maneuver, and actually end up ahead. Same thing at the leeward mark. They can tack away, do an extra tack up the middle, and still come out ahead. So it gives the tactician, Taylor, more opportunity. It's like the old thing they say, right? The best tactics are just to be faster. And Taylor had all that speed to work with because his team are phenomenal. You throw anything at them, they'll get it done. So that I spent a lot of my time as a coach videoing Convexity and videoing Argo, for example. These are guys that have sailed the boats a lot, trying to learn what they do and how they do it.
You know, the other thing that happens there, and we did this on the extreme sailing circuit a few, 10, 12 years ago when we did the extreme 40s, is that the nature of the beast with this type of boat is that you want to have a lot of races. And if you have a lot of races, the reaching start becomes, so yeah, you're gonna come off there badly once or twice. And if you can do like Tony says with the boat handling, if you can out boat handle people, you're going to pass 3 or 4 boats and do okay. But you're going to have your share of coming off the line out front. And we used to have a lot of downwind starts in those catamarans that were, every start was different, and sometimes you just get shot out the back. But what you realized was we're going to have 8 or 10 races today. It's not just going to be 1 or 2. And that's going to be the result for, and we're going to go home feeling bad because we had 1 bad start. These races are much shorter, and the intensity gets higher. And so, if things don't go well, you got another one coming up in just a few minutes.
So the Cats and Foilers seem to be pretty happy with it. Should we try them on a J70 course someday, or an Arrow start?
You know what? I think variety is great in our sport, Dave. We should try everything and make it fun. Downwind starts, coastal races. Yeah, it should be all on the table. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Eisler, why are the 52s not trying this then?
They love windward lure. What's wrong with windward lure around gates, man? Just keep doing that forever. That's so much fun. Upwind, downwind. Ed, I think you could probably get a roll grinding the runner up. That's the hardest job on the 52.
That is absolutely.
It would be fun to do. They have 3 buoy races. I'll throw it out there.
All right, we want the document of that when it happens. It'd be pretty cool to see the approaches.
Yeah.
Apply some new rules.
Wait for a really windy day where that lower angle pays, not the old when they're sailing like a planing boat, not like a keel boat.
Cool. So hey Gary, you're in the town of Annapolis. We got the word a couple days ago that the boat shows, both Power and Sail, are canceled, and so I imagine a bummer for the industry, but probably not a surprise for most. But it seemed like Annapolis was all kind of moving along. What's the story down there?
Well, it certainly made the front page of the newspaper the last 3 or 4 days, and lots of editorials and commentary. Well, the health department and the city decided we're not going to have a boat show. They weren't satisfied with the health precautions that were being put in place. And I'm not sure a lot of manufacturers were planning to come or not, but they canceled it. Probably the right decision. But as you can imagine, for our small town, it's pretty devastating economically. So let's hope we get a boat show a year from now. But there's plenty of sailing going on. I must say, there's we went out sailing on Friday and Saturday, and I counted 7 different regattas going on in different kind of boats around the bay. Some multi-hulls were out sailing, and some Pierre Giraffe, and there was a snipe regatta and some opties, and there was a laser radio regatta going on. So there's plenty of sailing going on. Wednesday night, we're averaging 130, 140 boats on Wednesday nights. So the sailing part of it's doing pretty well.
Good.
And as I'm sure all of you appreciate, it's actually hard to buy a boat right now. There's so many people wanting to get on boats. It's the escape, getting out in the water away from land with the COVID. And then I've kind of developed this style of day sailing, and I like day sailing, and but I actually have developed a routine to it. So I invite 1 or 2 people to go with me, no more than that. So conversation is pretty even. And then I set up a destination and actually a start. So there's a green buoy off Severn Sailing Association at the entrance of Spa Creek and Severn River. And that's our starting line. We hit the stopwatch. And then I'll have a destination, some lighthouse or some turning buoy or around the Bay Bridge or something. And you do that, and it's amazing how many different weather changes and wind shifts and things that happen and things that you see. I mean, it's every 2 or 3 minutes there's something new to look at. And then you round the lighthouse or the buoy and come back with the spinnaker, and everybody feels like they've accomplished stuff. And of course, with me, whatever boat is near us, I have to race them. You know, well, we're going to get ourselves ahead of that guy up there. Well, he's a long way. Well, let's see if we can catch him. And that gives everybody a purpose and a goal as we go. So anyway, that's my destination sailing these days.
Well, you got to have a point and a purpose, and yeah, it was funny.
That was my question for Jonathan. Is that why you invited the other family?
Oh, he's on mute.
Okay, get him.
Yeah, good question. The only problem is the other family is probably the best sailor in Seattle, Carl Buchan. So he's pretty tough to beat.
Well, I guess you guys need to team race then.
Yeah. And our other friends, the Renahans, now they bought a power boat. So we still invite them along, but the racing is not as fun. They get to the next anchorage first and scout it out for us.
I'm just absorbing the thought of Carl Buchan and John McKee and Renahan all out there cruising around Puget Sound. It's very cool that you guys are doing that.
Yeah. It's cool that Carl and I sailed at the Olympics together in 1984. And here we are all these years later, still sailing together and talking about sailing and talking about how we can improve our boats and stuff. So yeah, it's neat.
What's the one thing you can do to make the cruising boat faster than this winter?
Oh, there's all those things. I got a few things up my sleeve here.
Well, what was the most popular water toy or boat toy that was brought on board the fleet of 3 boats?
So interestingly, a lot of people have shifted away from traditional dinghies, and now they just go back and forth with paddle boards. So that's what most of our friends do. They just have a paddle board for each person on board, and when it's time to go to shore, you just hop on that. And it's super simple, and you don't need to tow something behind. And so it's been a simple development that's been good.
Yeah, throw the dry pack on your bag and
yep.
Excellent. Well, I was thinking about the boat show just real quick, and this is this is my one weekend I did not yacht. I was nowhere near water. My teenage son apparently just is fully into cars now, which is a surprise to me. Came out of left field, and he convinced me to go down to this car show down in Farmington, Connecticut, which is out in the middle, I guess somewhere near Hartford. I have no idea, but it was hot. But this car show had thousands of cars and also thousands of people, most wearing masks. I thought it was pretty surprising. So I'm going to share. This is anybody know what this car is?
That's your new car.
It's an Acura.
I had no idea, but apparently this is what everybody wanted to see. It's an Apollo A1. It's one of the world's fastest cars, and this paint job was about $500,000 just to paint it. But wow, some weapons. But anyway, Yeah, that was my weekend. But the one thing, with the boat show, what was cool about these car shows, I never really sort of been to them, but, all of our boat shows are all about new boats. And what I think is just really cool is all the collectibles and everyone would be judging. I thought, maybe Gary, we need to bring older boats into the boat shows, and give people awards for people, rehabbing old cruising boats and, sending some judges around. And why do we not collect boats like we do cars, and maybe the boat shows, we got to stop focusing on what's new and put some cool older boats out there. What do you guys think?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I love looking at classic boats, and it's amazing how people put pride into their boats. And last week I redid my rails with varnish, 3 coats. Felt good about that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Get people to look at them, and people are sure proud to show them off.
Yeah, so get some judging, get some people down there. Not everybody can buy a new boat, have some cool little dinghies. And anyway, that was my rant for the day. And sure felt good to drive over the Newport Bridge and get back to some ocean air, man. Connecticut is hot on a 90-degree day. That's what I got to say.
That town you were in is kind of a bedroom community for a lot of ESPN folks that work at ESPN. It's not too far away.
Yeah, lots of golf courses and polo clubs, but amazing number of cars. So cool classic cars. I can't say I had a favorite, but
hey, we got a visitor here, Jonathan.
All right. Oh, yeah, kitty. Cool. Well, that was yeah. So no yachting stories for me. It's good to be back to sailing this week. And all right. So real quick, let's do. Let's see if I can bring it here. No cheating on the name. All right. So here, let me stop that share. Let's get in here. Here's your one design for the day.
Contender.
What do you see? Are you guys seeing the car still? There we go. Is that better? What are you seeing?
Wow, that's cool.
Apparently, this thing gave the Contender a run for its money back when it was the Contender was to replace the fin back in the 70s.
It's a trapeze. Paul Elstrom.
Pretty close.
Trapeze. Wow.
I love the it's got a bit of a canoe good thing going to it, and they are still available. And I will tell you, they seem to be mostly being sailed in England, like most good, cool old school dinghies. Right. Any takers?
Interesting to see the hiking board.
They can zoom in there. Yeah, sort of it.
Midship Traveler, kind of interesting, and
that could be a international canoe.
No, it has canoe type things, but it's too wide.
Yeah. Okay. Has a sliding seat though.
Yeah. So no trap, sliding seat. All right. 30 seconds up. So the name of this one design is actually on the back of it. It's called the Unit, which I think is an outstanding name for a dinghy. I'm gonna go take the Unit for a spin. Anyway, yeah, I guess it didn't get very far, but they do still sail them, in their.
I wonder how that guy does with his wool sweater racing there.
I don't know. How'd you guys do in your wool sweaters?
You used to wear tons of them in the Laser.
Yeah, I wear 8 in the fin. You bet.
Cool. All right. Well, Lisa, what do you got going up there? And last week you said you had a tune you were going to close our show out with, so we'll leave it to you.
Oh, okay. A little lake tune. So there's this the ducks that go along the edge of the lake, and all. Some years there are people there and kids, and they get fed and they hang out, but they're all mallards. And in fact, there's a book I'm reading right now about mallards, which is surprising. But a few years ago, a wood duck showed up. And if you've ever seen a wood duck is way prettier than a mallard in some ways, the male of the species, but quite rare. And I take it as a sign that nature's coming back on the Finger Lakes and Skaneateles. So I wrote a song for Woody the wood duck.
This is an original.
Yeah. Woody went swimming on the ocean. Woody went swimming on the sea. Woody went swimming all around the place. Then Woody came swimming back to me. You can sail across the ocean. can sail across the sea. You can go any damn place you want, but Skaneateles is the place you want to be. Skaneateles is the place you want to be. There you
Bravo.
go.
Fantastic. All right. So you do have writing credits on that, or what's the how do you what's the deal? How do you make
Yeah.
sure nobody copies that song once it goes out?
It's out there now. You know, once I've played it, I'm done with
Going
it.
viral.
Just like Gary. But there is a cool boat here. You know, the Skaneateles is the home of the Lightning class. We talked about that. Lightning number 1 was built at the Skaneateles Boat Works, and there's this cool picture of Rod Stevens jibing the spinnaker pole on Lightning 1. And there's still a number of Lightnings around the lake, and I keep thinking it'd be fun to get one, just put it on a mooring out front. And in fact, Lightning 1 was donated or lent by Mystic Seaport that owns it to a local historical display here, which is cool. But there is a boat that is sitting at the local yacht club, country club right now, which is just beautiful. An 1899 Idem class sloop, IDEM. And I'm not prepped to share it, but really high powered, and it was designed for the Adirondacks Lakes. Super light air, like a flat bottom, centerboard boat, gaff rig, cloud of sail. I'm still trying to find the owner and go for a sail, because I too like classic boats, as does Woody. They're made out of wood.
So, well, if you get a chance and you go racing, make sure you document it and let us know. And great to see.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out how to launch my 15-meter kite off my moored ski boat out front without tearing apart the neighbor's boat lift.
Well, let's see some video of that as well next week if you don't mind. Yeah, love to see it. All right. Well, thanks, gentlemen. It's great to see everybody. And I think it's gonna be a busy couple of weeks here. We got the nude regatta in Annapolis this weekend, Gary. So hopefully you go.
We'll see you around.
Yep. And yeah, then it gets ramped up here in Newport with more stuff. So hope good health for everybody. Stay fast, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks. Thanks all.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. See you guys.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. Bye, guys.